Hello, and welcome to the Savvy Safety Sisters Partner in Prevention podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Pasquarello, and we know one of the most effective ways to prevent harm is by sharing stories from around the world. Our goal is to raise awareness and help ensure safety of your family and of all the people that you love and care for. Now, we aim to empower our audience with education and advocacy through expert insights and relevant personal stories. Now, today, we're going to discuss a disease called CADASIL. This is an important topic as CADASIL affects families worldwide and is often misdiagnosed. In fact, CADASIL can mimic MS. Reoccurring headaches in the early stage of CADASIL often are misdiagnosed as migraines, and strokes are a common symptom of CADASIL. So let's welcome our guest for today, Barbara Hunt. She's the president and founder of Think CADASIL. Now, this is an organization of individuals who are dedicated to educating the public about CADASIL. So thank you so much, Barbara, for joining us today. We're thrilled to have you.
Oh, Carrie, thank you so much for having us and for helping us to raise awareness, because that's my passion and this means so much to me.
Oh, that's fantastic that you're here. Can you take a few minutes to share a little bit about yourself and how you became involved with CADASIL?
Sure. So briefly, my training is in nursing. I am a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and in 2010, my life was forever changed. We learned that one of my husband's siblings, who had been diagnosed with MS for over 10 years, was now receiving a diagnosis of CADASIL, which we learned was a genetic disorder. Because CADASIL is genetic and it's autosomal dominant, which means each offspring has a 50% chance of inheriting the disease if the parent has the gene. So this meant that everyone that was important to me in my life had the potential of having this genetic disorder. I, of course, Googled CADASIL, and I did not like what I read. But I knew then that I had to be proactive. I could not be passive in this event that was coming into my life. So I then found Facebook CADASIL support group, where I interacted with a lot of CADASIL patients and family members, and I became very friendly with another nurse who was also a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and CADASIL had invaded her life. We collaborated together, and it took us about 2 years, but we formed the CADASIL Association, which is now known as Cure CADASIL. And I worked with them for about 2.5 years until 2014, when my husband had his first stroke, my husband Joe. And I tried to continue working, but it was kind of difficult with taking care of him and trying to raise awareness about CADASIL. So I resigned from Cure CADASIL. I tried to stay active still with the group, but it was difficult. But I have to say, since my leaving, Cure CADASIL has done incredible things. The governing boards of Cure CADASIL have been amazing, and they have done fundraising for research. They've got 3 studies, which are still ongoing. They created the CADASIL Family Registry. They've just done so much. They've been incredible. My passion has always been awareness, because I really believe that awareness is the quickest path to a cure. And so when I thought that I could get back into concentrating some of my time onto CADASIL, I began or continued what I had been doing before, which was writing to organizations like MS organizations, Alzheimer's organizations, Parkinson's, frontal temporal lobe dementia organizations, and telling them about CADASIL, what it was, and how so many CADASIL patients were misdiagnosed. I always received very, very good feedback when I did this. The organizations always thanked me for telling them about CADASIL, about the misdiagnosis, and two MS organizations actually added CADASIL to their websites as a disease that should be ruled out before a diagnosis of MS. Another thing that I did to raise awareness was to write to every media outlet I could find an address or an email to tell them about CADASIL and this terrible situation of misdiagnosis. I didn't have as much luck there, but I feel that somebody read it, so somebody heard about CADASIL, so I don't feel that it was for nothing. Actually, there were a few articles written around the country in small local newspapers that picked it up.
Well, I think this might be a really great place for you to share a little bit more about what CADASIL is and the prevalence of CADASIL.
CADASIL is a genetic disorder. It's a mutation on the Notch3 gene on chromosome 19. There are over 300 mutations that have been reported related to CADASIL. In CADASIL, there is a thickening of the smooth muscle walls of the arteries, and this causes the arteries to become fragile and brittle, and they then can easily collapse or break, causing neurological events, strokes in the brain or TIAs. It's a disorder that's very hard to diagnose also. And as far as the prevalence goes, there's a lot of disputes about the prevalence because CADASIL is so often misdiagnosed and it's underdiagnosed. So there's not a lot of agreement. However, there is a study that came out not too long ago that says that the mutation, the Notch3 mutation, may be as prevalent as 1 in 300. This doesn't mean that everyone that has a mutation presents with symptoms of CADASIL, but
Right. So then let's talk about some of the symptoms that one might experience if they do have CADASIL.
So the symptoms in CADASIL are varied and different with everybody. Many people with, and the other thing is different symptoms occur at different times during your life. Many people with CADASIL have migraines, and some of the CADASIL patients who experience migraines experience them as early as teens. With these migraines often comes aura, which can be visual, sensory, motor, or verbal disturbances that present along with the migraines. The migraines can be mild or they can be very debilitating in some people. Another symptom is stroke. Many people with CADASIL have strokes, and some of them have your typical stroke where you have the drooping of the face or not being able to move part of the body, or your speech is slurred. Others may have just mild, TIAs. when someone at a young age, which often happens with CADASIL patients, and young being under 60, experiences a stroke, especially if they don't have cardiovascular risk factors, this should really be a red flag to the medical personnel that this is unusual and perhaps they should look at something other than just a stroke. Those are some of the big symptoms, but a lot of people have less noticeable symptoms, like many people just have numbness or tingling in extremities or weakness in an extremity that may come and go. Some CADASIL patients have seizures. Some CADASIL patients experience tremors and slow movements that are similar to Parkinson's. And so CADASIL is sometimes misdiagnosed as Parkinson's also. Some CADASIL patients have psychiatric and mood disorders, such as apathy and depression. And sometimes some patients will have a very sudden onset of something like vertigo or abnormal eye movements. So as you can see, the symptoms are very varied in different people.
Right. There's so many different symptoms, and I think I've read up to 54% of CADASIL individuals that have been diagnosed with CADASIL have the migraines. Is
Yeah,
that so?
that's a
More than
very big
50%.
symptom. Yeah.
So can you share about any new research that they're doing, or maybe I would say any research that they're conducting to try to find a cure for CADASIL? And
So,
who's involved in this?
so presently there are 3 studies going on. Actually, there are 4. The first one is at the NIH with Dr. Eliza Ferrante. They are doing a natural history of CADASIL to see how it progresses from the point of being diagnosed, how it goes along over the years. I believe that's like a 9-year study. To find more information about any of the studies, you can go to Cure CADASIL. The second one is the CADASIL Consortium study. That study has 12 sites around the United States, and their aim is to enroll 500 participants in North America. And again, you can find more information about that study on Cure CADASIL. The third study is the CZI study at Mount Sinai in New York City. The principal investigator is Dr. Fanny Alai, and her study is aimed at finding crucial information that will help to get towards a drug for the treatment of CADASIL.
Well, that sounds like a lot of movements happening out there for CADASIL, and this is really great. And so more awareness on this disease will help get more funding, get more eyes on it, get more doctors involved. And as I think about doctors, I've heard a number of people that have CADASIL will go to the doctors or the hospital, and the person treating them might have never heard of CADASIL. How often does this happen? And how can we change that, making sure that the medical profession knows more about CADASIL?
So this is why I founded Think CADASIL, because I wanted to reach out to the medical community in particular. And the way that I did that in the past was to attend medical conferences. And there's something about going to a medical conference and talking directly face to face with a professional and telling them about this disease that they've never heard of, that I think resonates with them and stays with them. And so our plan at Think CADASIL is to attend more of these medical conventions, and we have one set up for September that, you know, we think CADASIL will be represented at. We're looking into a couple of others. The medical professionals that we're looking to target are neurologists who already know about it, but in my opinion, don't look for it as they should. ER doctors, because CADASIL patients go to the ER often and are just looked at. Most often don't find anything wrong with them. Whatever is going on passes and they're sent home. The mental health community, because mental health issues can be a part of CADASIL also. So those are some of the areas that we're looking into right now and where we want to raise awareness.
Yeah, and I think it's so important for those who are affected by this to know that they're not alone. Know that there's a community out there that's willing and ready to support them. And I think that's a key component to awareness, is not only getting the doctors and the ER and individuals treating people with MS involved, but also the families to know that there's support out there. People are going through this and are there to help.
Yes, and we're working on that also. We're trying to set up some Zoom support groups where patients and families can come and actually meet, you know, see other patients and family members with CADASIL. And hopefully what we plan to do is have groups for CADASIL patients, have groups for family members, you know, and a separate group for those who are at risk, because they have special issues that they're dealing with. When you know that your parent has this genetic disorder and that you have a 50% chance of inheriting it, that's, you know, quite a burden.
Right. Sure. So all of those are fantastic strategies going forward, making sure that we have these awareness groups, have this community where people can come and learn more about CADASIL and have the support that's so needed. So I know we're at the end of our program, so I want to ask you if you have any last words or a little bit more about how people can get involved and where they can reach out to find more about you and your organization.
So I have a lot of ideas on how to raise awareness. I think that everyone needs to talk about it more, and you know, not be afraid of it. I think when something is new and different that you've never heard of, there's a certain amount of fear. And the more we talk about it, that fear will go away. So, you know, if you talk about it to your doctor, it doesn't have to be your neurologist, your gynecologist, your cardiologist, your, you know, your primary care doctor, because none of them know about it. We at Think CADASIL have created a CADASIL sticker ribbon that you can put on your car. And if anybody wants one, they can go to thinkcadasil.org and we'll send you one, request one, and we'll send you one. And I hope that you'll go to Think CADASIL and request one, and just talk about it. Just talk about it.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for joining us today. to highlight CADASIL and sharing a bit about your family and your journey. So currently there isn't a cure for CADASIL, and this is why awareness is so critical. We need more research. We hope one day there will be a cure, but until then, we need to focus on supportive care, including practical help, emotional support, and counseling, which is very helpful for those who are affected and their families. Now, to learn more about how you can help, visit Think CADASIL at www.thinkcadasil.org. And to learn more about this disease and dementia or other areas of illness, please visit the National Organization for Rare Disorders, or the NIH, which is the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Strokes. I'll make sure to put the resources in the video information once this comes out. And that's it for today. We'll be back with another episode to increase public awareness about topics faced by citizens in their daily life, whether traveling around the world or the corner. And be sure to visit us at Global Secure Student or Global Secure Resources for more information about our community awareness and prevention programs. And keep safe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for joining.